Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Back to Work in the New Normal. This special webinar event is brought to you in partnership with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise and produced by Actual Tech Media. We've got some really impressive, really innovative technology that you'll learn about on today's event to help you cope with the latest challenges that I know so many IT organizations are facing today. Now, before we get started, we've got a little bit of housekeeping that we first need to cover. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for today's webinar. We want this to be an educational event, and as such, we encourage you to use the questions box. It's there to the left of the slides window. It says questions. If you click on that, that's where you can enter your questions about today's topic. We have experts from HPE standing by to answer your questions throughout the event, and we'll be saving up the best questions for our dedicated Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. We'll also be announcing the winner of our $300 Visa gift card at the end of today's event. If you're watching this on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. Prize terms and conditions can be found in the Handouts tab. The gift card is provided by Actual Tech Media. Before I introduce you to today's expert presenters, I want to first tell you about a generous offer from HPE. With IT professionals such as yourself facing significant new workplace challenges in the post-pandemic world, HPE Pointnext is here to help you get your employees carefully and safely back to work in their normal physical work locations. And as such, HPE would like to chat with you one-on-one for a virtual meeting to see how HPE Pointnext Services can assist you. And as part of that, they're even willing to buy you and maybe some of your fellow employees lunch via a $100 DoorDash gift card. So when HPE reaches out to you after today's event, I encourage you to take them up on their offer of a chat about HPE Pointnext, and anyone who does so will receive the $100 DoorDash gift card from your HPE representative. And now I'm excited to introduce you to today's expert presenters. They are Mr. Kevin Kramer, Practice Lead for Network, Workplace, and IoT at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, and Mr. Mark Guzin, Network and IoT Services Lead, also at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. And with that, I'll turn it over to our first presenter. Take it away, Kevin.
Great, thank you. Kevin Kramer, as part of our HPE's Pointnext Services team. I'm here with Mark Guzin, and we're going to talk to you about our return to work solutions. This is all part of our network, workplace, and IoT practice. As you see here, this woman with the mask on is returning to work. We're going to talk about this in the context of our intelligent workplace solutions, and again, how do we get ourselves back to work in a safe and secure manner. So first, I wanted to cover just briefly some of our workplace challenges. Many of these challenges were the same before COVID-19. There's a continued interest and pressure to reduce workplace costs, providing those physical workplaces at a reduced cost and at the most cost-effective way possible. And now we're talking about more people working remotely, working from home. So how do we take the physical offices that we have, maybe reduce some of those and make those smarter physical offices? And that's the context we're talking about today. We want to engage and enable our employees, even customers and visitors, in a very involved, collaborative environment in the workplace. And we want to make sure we include health and safety as well as a paramount concern, where we understand we're going to talk quite a bit around that today, especially in light of COVID-19. And what can we do to really help and secure our facilities and focus on the health and safety of our employees. And lastly, we always want to attract and retain talent, whether that's from the industry or universities. And one of the ways we can do that is to enable and show that we have a modern workplace where people can feel safe and can feel they can collaborate and really get work done. And that's what we're going to talk about today in more detail. So this is really stage two. We're going to cover what we call stage two today, which is around the return to work program. Stage one is really around remote work, and I'll cover some of those details at the end. If maybe you've missed some past webinars, we'll talk about remote work and what options we have for that as well. But we're going to focus today on stage two, recover and adapt, and return to work. So first I wanted to mention too, this is all based on our intelligent workplace service. We've had this for years, where we've enabled these physical workplaces that we all have to be smarter about who's working there, what's happening, where some of our assets are, all about making that physical workplace more aware of what's going on. So some of the things we might leverage for that are on the left-hand side here. Might be able to find our colleagues, schedule conference rooms or schedule hot desk or desk hoteling. We can find our way within the facility. So you can see on the right-hand side this little mobile device, and you can see a map, floor plan of the facility that provides you turn-by-turn directions, also called wayfinding. That lets you figure out to get to your conference room, walk 30 feet, make a left, turn right, and then walk 10 feet, that sort of a thing. And this has been around for a while and is enabled by Bluetooth beacons, is one way of making your workplace smarter. And this is all enabled by, you see at the bottom here in purple, the HPE's My Workplace app. And this will be important as sort of a unifying point for employees to be able to provide information and intelligence about the workplace. And what we want to do then is augment this with some additional solutions. And Mark is going to cover these in greater detail. Mark?
Thank you, Kevin. So yeah, we really have the 3 use cases you see here that we find are top of mind for most of our clients these days. So the first one is around fever detection. That really is about identifying people with elevated body temperatures and making sure that they don't come into your facility and infect others. Closely tied in with that is our touchless entry solutions. So this is really around creating a secure and hygienic entry point into your facility and making sure that you don't have common surfaces that can help transmit viruses. And last but not least, social distance tracking and tracing. This is really kind of the next level of defense, if you will, about understanding who's been in contact with who and making sure that you're able to effectively enforce your social distance rules. So HPE is really taking a different approach than what you might see in the marketplace with some other of the point solutions. So our Pointnext organization, which is our services team, is partnering with a few select third parties that have very advanced AI-driven video analytics platforms. We think that this is really differentiated because this analytics platform really brings a lot of value. So you can see on the bullet points on the right here, they cover the use cases that we just talked about in terms of fever detection, touchless entry, and social distance tracking. But the platform can also bring a lot of value with other use cases as well. Whether clients decide to implement those use cases right away or implement them down the road, that platform provides a lot of value. And we'll go into some more detail in a bit on what those use cases look like. The reason we're going to market with our services organization is we find that every client has a little bit different needs. And our Pointnext organization can bring a wide breadth of service capabilities and tailor those to meet the needs of each individual customer. So we really work very closely with our clients, design a solution that aligns perfectly with what they're looking for and the use cases that they're looking to implement, and drive that so that they're highly satisfied and getting exactly what they need. So fever detection, this is really around, again, identifying people with elevated body temperatures and being able to do this in a non-contact way. So our clients really want to be able to typically automate this process. So making sure that they're not incurring the cost of staffing these types of functions, nor introducing the risk to employees of being part of this process. It's important that the process is fast and efficient. So the fever scanning typically takes only 2 or 3 seconds per person, and we set up the workflow so that we get an ideal result, and then be able to really support all the unique policies and workflows that a client has. So accuracy is really one of the hallmarks of the solution. What you'll see is there are a lot of different solutions in the marketplace, and many of them, the accuracy is quite suspect. We're really driving a very accurate solution so that clients can rest assured that they are identifying accurately and reducing the number of false positives and false negatives. So we can, have an accuracy within a half a degree Fahrenheit, which is very, very high accuracy. And the way that we do this is really utilizing AI algorithms to optimize that temperature scanning. So as you can see from the graphic on the right, the little target sign there is focused in right at the tear duct area. That is the optimal place on a person's face to look for the best representation of what their core body temperature is. A lot of the solutions out there will take readings off of the broad skin areas, and those are really subject to a lot of variability and inaccuracy. Not a very good representation of a person's core body temperature. The AI also allows us to do other things as well, such as take into account environmental factors. So if it's a real hot day or a real cold day, that obviously can have a pretty dramatic effect on results and drive inaccuracies. People's natural baseline temperatures also can vary quite a bit. We all know that the average temperature is 98.6 for a human being, but on a person-to-person basis, people run hot and cold naturally, so they can actually vary by a degree or two just as their normal baseline. So if you don't take that into account when you're doing this fever scanning, particularly in in an employee situation where you're seeing the same people come through, day in, day out, you'll drive a lot of false positives. So the AI actually has the ability to build a personal baseline, recognize that person by their facial characteristics, and factor that into the screening. So the bottom line is we can really drive a very accurate result that just isn't possible with lesser solutions. The other hallmark of the fever screening is really the flexibility. So our clients really want to drive, again, that flexible, that accurate and automated process. So the ability to design what that process looks like, both from the physical workflow, how do people move through the line, how do you automate that so that you don't need to staff that function. So as you can see from the picture here, we give clients the ability to really customize that experience and give the folks being scanned specific directions as to how to go about scanning and what to do if they do have an elevated body temperature. So that really kind of automates the workflow. Also, there's a virtual workflow that's often associated with the process as well. So many clients have processes and compliance requirements to be able to notify certain individuals if somebody does have an elevated body temperature. So that ability to drive messaging to the appropriate individuals, to keep records and maintain policies is really easy to do in the solution, all controlled by software, so that you can align with that process. And then as that process changes over time, you can easily modify it as well, because it's all defined within the software. So this gives a high-level overview of what the basic solution looks like. So at each entrance, you will have a high-quality thermal camera. This is really important in terms of driving that accuracy and being able to identify, the temperature readings, again, of that tear duct area. So you need a very high quality thermal camera with appropriate pixel resolution. And then that's fused together with a normal video camera so that you can actually, rather than having kind of that thermal image, you've actually got a picture of the subject that you can work with, and include that in the notifications and in the workflow. These cameras are tied into the customer's network, and if on a per site basis, you'll see, on a compute platform, you'll have the third-party analytics platform. So, the ability to leverage existing compute or networking resources that you might have. Again, we can build the solution so that clients can leverage what they already have, and then build in the right level of services to be able to help the customer design the process and get that deployed, and even manage the process if that is of interest. But again, really tailored to the individual needs of each individual client. So the next use case is really around touchless entry. So this is really around, again, creating that secure and hygienic entry point into your facility. This is often tied into the fever screening, but starts with the ability to recognize individuals using facial recognition and ensuring that you're creating a secure entry point. And then adding additional factors into that entry process. That might be an app on your phone. Again, like I said, oftentimes clients are tying that into the fever scanning, so that if somebody does have an elevated body temperature, their access is automatically denied and helps prevent them from coming into the facility. The AI can also help with things like piggybacking, which is a very common issue. And so if it does see piggybacking, it can create a real-time alert there, and send notifications to the appropriate people or functions. And then, last but certainly not least, the ability to integrate into the existing access control systems. So, clients typically have a whole range of, sometimes they have modern access control systems, sometimes not so modern. We can offer things like smart controllers so that it enable that touchless entry into a legacy environment, so that you don't have to throw out and start from scratch. You can integrate into what you already have and leverage those investments. So social distance tracking and tracing, again, I refer to this as the next layer of defense, if you will. So you're really using video within your four walls to understand whether people are adhering to any social distance guidelines that you may have, as well as the ability to understand where people have been and been in contact with. And so this is all leveraging the video cameras that you have deployed. And the beauty here is, again, leveraging what a client already has. So many clients already have video surveillance systems already deployed, and we can tap right into that, and there's no need to add additional video cameras. We can apply the AI platform to those video streams to drive the use cases. So social distance tracking, this is really around establishing what your guidelines are for maintaining social distance and enabling enforcement of that. So the technology has the ability through the video streams to understand what the physical distance is between people, and so you can set what your physical guidelines are. In this case, as you can see, it's 6 feet. So anytime that that 6-foot barrier is broken, it will create an alert. And you can, much like we talked about on the fever detection, you've got a lot of flexibility on how you manage those alerts. You can create messages, emails or texts. You can also drive things like you may have a video screen where you post messages in that area where the breach is occurring, reminding people to take notice of social distancing. You may also drive things like an audio message. It's really a lot of flexibility on how you choose to enforce it, and make sure that those behaviors are consistent. You can do this. You can even apply the facial recognition and customize alerts so that you could, if you had somebody's cell phone number, you could actually text them and ask them to maintain social distancing. So again, lots of flexibility to deploy and define the rules exactly how a client wants. And then contact tracing is really around being able to understand where somebody has been and who they've been in contact with over a given period of time. So again, we're leveraging these video streams, so people don't have to do anything different. They just go about their normal day. They don't have to wear any special device. They don't have to carry a phone. They don't have to do anything special. The video is streaming, and from that stream, we're able to build a history of where somebody has been and who they've been in contact with, so that if a person is identified as having the virus, you can quickly run a report and identify everybody that they've been in contact with over a given period of time. And that allows you to really address that risk on a very micro level. So rather than having to shut down an entire floor or even an entire operation, you can focus your efforts on exactly where that infected person has been. And the value of that to the business is absolutely huge. So I wanted to just highlight one of our customers that has deployed this solution, and just give you a little insight into what their business drivers are and how it's helping them. So this is a large food manufacturer, and the potential for huge impacts to their business really exist with COVID here. So if they have an outbreak, it literally has the potential to shut down entire operations and have a very significant impact, not only to their revenue, but also to their brand. And so when they looked at our solution, the accuracy, the flexibility, they're deploying across 40 different sites nationwide. Each one of these sites, from state to state, even from city to city, oftentimes there's different compliance requirements that have to be taken into account and factored into that workflow. So we're enabling them to have a completely automated workflow, but still align and comply with all those different requirements across 40 sites nationwide. And then the accuracy, the ability to really identify and prevent folks from entering if they have an elevated body temperature, has really mitigated their exposure. And as well as not just from the financial perspective, but also a real clear message to their employees and their unions that they really value their employees' health and safety. And so it's been a win-win on many different fronts. So as I mentioned up front, the one of the key differentiators is having this video analytics platform. and the ability to not only address the use cases that we've just reviewed, but also leverage that same platform to leverage other use cases that aren't necessarily, COVID related. So whether it's, security related use cases, as you see here, things like identifying unusual behavior or making sure that people aren't in, in areas that they're not supposed to be, or even, things like loss prevention or God forbid, gun detection. That same platform can drive those use cases and really take that investment and leverage it out across a much greater ROI. And then as you can see, there's other health related use cases, as well as understanding, people flow and where people are spending time, where they're congregating, have a lot of different benefits to an organization, not only from a health perspective, but also, a facilities planning and an optimization standpoint. So this is by no means a complete listing, but just gives you some flavor for, the additional benefit and ROI that can be derived from this type of approach.
And I think I'll pick up here, Mark. This is Kevin again. So I wanted to also cover how we draw these into a central communication point. One of the ways we can do that is by using an employee app. What you see here is an example employee app of the HPE's My Workplace app, and being the essential point of communication around news and events, notifications, and even links to other tools. You can see the link to Headspace, a nice app on the right-hand side. In the middle there, in the apps, you see our San Jose location and an alert around COVID-19. These sorts of things can provide that communication around alerts. Even as Mark was talking earlier about people that were identified that were not adhering to social distancing, they could even receive an alert here in their app advising them to remind them to stay socially distant. Okay, so one thing to consider as we move forward here is how we integrate this with employee apps and communication options. And then we also wanted to mention too, as we go through some of our customers as we're talking to them, they've realized that their operations have changed. The way they handle and staff their data center, well, I mean, some of those people can't get to the data center, or they're trying to operate with fewer people and more people remotely. They're re-looking at how they do maintenance and staffing overall. So one of the things we've been working with our customers on is doing an operational risk assessment to re-look at all of their plans around SLAs and compliance, their key performance indicators. We've looked at their organizational model, how they handle change management, their operations and maintenance, how they handle the maintenance of their management systems, safety and compliance, and training and communication. So one way we can help is also by taking a fresh look, given COVID-19, given the change in who can be physically present in the data center and your operations centers, is taking a fresh look at what that needs to be given where we are today. Also, critical business applications, SAP being probably the most asked for, is looking at, with the changes in the way that we're working, our business processes have changed given the new normal and our return to work. It's important we take a fresh look at those business applications. Are they performing the way they should be? Do things need to be changed or resolved or improved based on the changes and how we function nowadays? So we can provide an evaluation of the current situation and do an analysis based on our experts for SAP specifically or for other business applications. And we can do that, a lot of that remotely as well. So that's a big help nowadays as we try to reduce the amount of staff that we have on premise. So I mentioned earlier in the beginning that we were on to stage 2. We're covering this recover and adapt, return to work. I briefly wanted to mention some of the topics that we talked about as part of the remote work program in this stage 1, as we sort of tried to figure out how we could all work from home and be productive in that environment. So a few things just to touch on quickly. One is a number of options exist to connect and protect. So essentially extending the network and providing network access from different locations. You might imagine if you were in the retail space, suddenly you're offering Wi-Fi and connectivity in your parking lots, and maybe you're doing the same if you're state and local education, and you're looking at how to provide more connectivity. We even have customers extending their internal networks to the remote houses, whether that be with Wi-Fi or some of the other solutions here around VDI. Remote collaboration, enabling Microsoft Teams, for example, and other solutions to enable collaboration. Zoom, of course, other examples as well. So enabling the infrastructure so your employees can collaborate remotely. VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. This is certainly very popular. We're doing quite a bit of work with our customers on deploying VDI, as well as we can do it so under the GreenLake model, so it's done as a monthly fee, and being able to deploy VDI in your premise and provide that infrastructure out to all of your workers in a very, very safe, secure, and high performance manner. Visual remote guidance we didn't touch on yet, and that's really where you have particular skill sets that may not be able to physically get to a particular area. Maybe you have a data center, maybe you have a really remote location, and the person there can view and see something they need to repair. Maybe it's something in the data center like a server, or maybe it's something in an oil rig somewhere that has to be repaired, and you can get expertise. Basically provides the software so you can annotate and point to and work with people remotely, whether it's through your cell phone or a Google Glass type situation, and you can enable that expertise to see what's going on premise. And then remote management and staff augmentation. There's quite a bit we can do remotely. I think all of the organizations, our customers, have tried to be creative about what they can do remotely, and HPE can do quite a bit remotely as well to help you in that endeavor. Okay, I wanted to mention management of change. I mean, wow, we're going through a lot of change in the way we work. We've asked a lot of our employees to work remotely instantly, that many of whom had not been doing that before on a consistent basis. New technologies, that we just mentioned a bunch of them, all require some element of management of change. It's a lot of communications and training to help employees and visitors and customers understand what's being changed, why it's being changed, and how they can help with the solution. So one of the things we included as well is some of the options we have around instructor-led training. We have quite a bit of training across all kinds of vendors in the industry, not just HPE, of course, but all the leaders, as you see the logos in the bottom. All kinds of different training options exist for you, whether that's live or virtual classrooms. We can provide that, anything that's needed, as well as labs. We also have virtual labs available. So if some of that's necessary to help your people, we can make that happen. We also have something called HPE's Digital Learner, and that is an annual subscription, provides you all of the training you might need on an on-demand basis, and provides you periodic analysis and guidance from some of our experts, and can be standalone or can complement traditional training as well. There's quite a bit we can do to help your employees, help your administrators or your technical staff get up to speed of where they need to be based on whatever technologies or solutions you're putting into place. Okay, and lastly, I wanted to mention as well our expertise, technology, and economics that we can bring to bear. On the bottom left there in that purple box, IDC came out with a MarketScape survey, actually 3 different surveys in 2020. I think one of them was in the latter part of 2019, that named us as the leader in 3 separate surveys around workplace, network, and IoT services. And what's really important about that is it's based on surveys and feedback from actual customers that have used our services rather than just general sort of a inventory of what we provide. So our customers are saying we're leaders in this space, and that makes us very proud of that. Technology, as you look to implement different solutions for return to work, well, you want something probably pretty quickly. And we've worked with all of our customers to really get them equipment, get them infrastructure and solutions and software, whatever is needed very quickly. And then on the economic side, we have our HPE Financial Services, has a slew of options for financing. We can offer GreenLake services as well to provide things at a monthly bill, if you will, rather than a capital expense up front. So there's all kinds of ways we can bring our own services to help you, and I hope we can certainly engage and hear about your particular challenges in the future and see if we can bring these to bear as you look to return to work in your environment. Okay, I think we're ready for questions now.
Great presentation, Kevin and Mark. Thank you so much. This is really some timely information and some cutting edge technology that I know could help so many companies out there. Before we jump into our Q&A, I want to first remind everyone out there in the audience about the offer of the $100 DoorDash gift card. Again, keep your eye out for a call, for an email from an HPE representative. And if you have that one-on-one virtual meeting, HPE is offering that $100 DoorDash gift card. So keep that in mind. And with that, let's jump into our Q&A session. The first question is for you, Mark, and that is, as far as camera placement, they're asking, are they required around the entire facility, or would you just recommend them at entry points?
Yes, thanks for the question. So it really depends on the use case. So the fever detection, that is really typically deployed at the entry points to a facility. So again, that's going to be a combination of both the thermal cameras as well as the regular video cameras. And those would be placed at your key entry points. The ability to do the social distancing and the contact tracing, that can really leverage video surveillance that you may have throughout your organization, throughout your buildings. So we leverage everything that you have, and if there are areas that you want coverage for that need additional, then we can work with you to help you implement whatever the net new needs to be.
Okay, very interesting. So different types of cameras for different use cases and different positions around the building to place those. Next question comes from Scott here. He's asking, he says he's heard of several different fever detection solutions on the market. What really differentiates the HPE solution from other offerings? Kevin?
Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, Scott, there's a bunch of different solutions out there, a whole range of solutions, from little handheld devices you might see that just point at your forehead and give you some kind of reading, all through even temperature strips you can put on your forehead. And so even a simple kiosk that essentially does the same thing. They all look at the forehead or general face of the person and kind of gives you an average maybe temperature, not very accurate. If anybody's used those themselves, they can just point at the forehead. I myself point at my forehead and it comes out to 84 degrees. And I think I wouldn't be doing too well if that was the actual temperature. So I think with any of these solutions, you have to consider what the actual quality is. And so what we proposed, as Mark was describing earlier, is to look at the inner part of the eye as the most accurate way to take somebody's temperature without actually touching the person. And so that's the most accurate way to do that. In order to identify the inner eye, we need a bit of our AI technology to understand the face, facial recognition, zero in on that with the thermal camera and get the best reading possible. So really that's what we've gone for, is a really accurate solution. There are some, as I said, some forehead solutions out there, and really get to take a look to see what accuracy you need in your environment. And that's where we chose to go with that.
Yep.
Fascinating. Using cameras to take the temperature of the inner part of the eye. I love this innovative technology that you all are talking about here. Next question is for you, Mark. How do solutions like contact tracing and tracking impact employee privacy concerns?
That's a great question, and something that every company is thinking about as they're implementing these types of solutions. So as we mentioned, literally, state by state, even city by city, there can potentially be different requirements from a government regulation and compliance perspective, as well as considerations for employment contracts of what a company can and can't do. So particularly when you're applying this to employees, we're working with our clients and oftentimes their legal and HR functions, understand what those are and make sure that we're tuning the solution to help them align with those requirements. But in general, we are able to configure the solutions so that they comply with the solutions and comply with the regulations, so that companies don't have to incur, as one of our clients says, they don't have to create health records and deal with things like HIPAA and other things. it's the flexibility there is absolutely key.
Right, so you can identify, or I should say you can recognize a face that you've seen before, Mark, but maybe not identify who that person is, right?
Exactly. So based on their unique, think of it as a fingerprint, right? You're not identifying that face as Mark Uzin, but you can identify it and give it a generic code, if you will, and still drive that accuracy and the benefits of as if you were identifying it by name.
Interesting. All right. Always important to keep privacy in mind. Next question they're asking, can you scan multiple people at the same time for fever detection?
Yeah, that question comes up a lot, and you will see solutions out there that advertise the ability to do mass screening of a crowd. It's possible to get a temperature reading from a mass screening, but you are sacrificing accuracy, and that is just a fact of the available technology today. It doesn't matter whether that's the HPE solution or anybody else's solution. In order to get that accurate temperature, as we described earlier, it's really identifying that tear duct area on a face and taking the temperature reading there so that you're getting a representation of their core temperature. The only way to do that is to have sufficient pixelation of that image, and which is why if you look at like the CDC guidelines, they actually specifically say that you should be doing a queuing process and scanning people individually if you want an accurate result. So that's really, our clients are typically looking for that highly accurate result. So that's what we're doing with our solution.
Excellent. Well, it's really impressive what you all are doing at HPE to help companies get back to work with this technology. Mark and Kevin, thank you so much for your presentation today.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
And with that, it's time to announce the winner of our $300 Visa gift card. This gift card is going out to Asin Trenev from Illinois. Asin Trenev from Illinois. I'll post the prize winner there in the chat as well. Now, before you go, I want to remind you to make sure that you check out the handouts tab. There you will find 2 PDF handouts. One is a solutions brief on the HPE Pointnext Services, and another one is a really nice paper on helping businesses return to work. So go ahead and make sure that you download those assets now because they won't be easily accessible after today's event. And of course, don't forget to watch for a call and watch for an email from an HPE representative for a chance to be eligible for the DoorDash gift cards that they are giving away. I hope that everyone enjoyed today's event and learned a lot. This was a really fascinating topic, in my opinion, and we had tons of great questions coming in. We'll be doing our best to get back to everyone who had questions. Thank you so much for joining us on the event today. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.